Because food policy is in the news maybe every day, every week with the current administration, you might think that it's the most important way to improve health in the United States, changing nutrition. But what about exercise? No one's talking about exercise. Now, you already know that I don't think diet and exercise are all you need when it comes to treating obesity, but I'm definitely an advocate of both. In fact, I'm actually really passionate about exercise opportunities, especially for kids, and especially for kids from disadvantaged communities. Now, you probably don't remember or don't know that in my very first YouTube video, I mentioned that I played Division I soccer. I didn't mention where, but it was at Stanford, out in California. Since then, I've always been interested in youth sports, and in soccer particularly, obviously. I actually ran a soccer club in DC that was the biggest youth sports organization in the district. I served on their board for 6 years, and I was the chairman of the board for 2. So I do care a lot about exercise, even though I don't talk about it that much. My latest adventure is that I'm actually trying to start a new pro soccer team here in the district. I'm not going to talk about that much, unless you want me to. You'll have to send me some comments, and I'll do an episode on soccer. But the point is that exercise is important for all of us, whether we have obesity or not, because it improves our metabolic health. And here you see an image that you already know. You don't need me to tell you that our sedentary lifestyles are contributing to our decline in our overall health as a society. And while the image might be a little bit outdated because there are a few people who sit around and watch TV, and I actually don't know very many people who read books in bed, like Image D, anymore. But lots of people scroll their phones in bed, which is not a good thing to do for sleep. But we've talked about that before, and we can talk about it again. But we are sedentary as a group, no doubt. And there was a recent study that showed that if you sit for more than 10 hours a day, whether that be at a desk in your computer at work, or at home, or in front of a TV, it increases your risk of having a heart attack and even dying. So that's something you have to pay attention to. Try not to sit for so long. And making matters worse, very few of us either know or get the recommended amount of exercise to be optimal for our health. In adults, it's about 2.5 to 5 hours of vigorous exercise, vigorous aerobic activity, depending on what you're doing, and about half that much if you're exercising strenuously. Kids actually need 60 minutes of exercise every day. Now, for adults, you need to add in some resistance training or muscle strengthening at least twice a week, because that has additional benefits. And there was just a study I saw that showed that the weekend warriors, who only get their recommended amount of exercise over a 2-day span on the weekends, compared to people who spread it out throughout the whole week, they get the same risk reduction or benefits from the exercise. The point is that exercise is important, and it helps kids who are growing. It helps adults stay healthier, stave off dementia, stave off heart attacks and early death. And while I know that it's really hard for people to find that time to do these things, there are some certain things you can do to help, and there's certain things we can advocate for as a community to help. So for kids, physical education classes have basically gone by the wayside in many schools for budgetary and other reasons. So it's really about finding affordable after-school activities so that people can get their kids the exercise that they need. That's why I'm such an advocate of team sports, because that's an easy way to do it. But if you aren't into sports, there's dance, there's hiking, there's biking, there's anything that gets you moving. Doesn't really matter, and it doesn't have to be expensive. You can find alternatives out there that are affordable. Now, for adults, it might be a little bit harder to find those activities, and team sports are often harder to find for adults. But the American Heart Association has a list of examples that are moderate and intense exercise, respectively, and you can see those here. When it comes to the moderate exercise group, there's brisk walking, or water aerobics, and even gardening. Like, I didn't really think to myself that gardening might be considered an exercise, but it is, especially if you do it vigorously. If you look at the next image where it shows the vigorous exercises, it says, vigorous gardening or vigorous heavy yard work, such as continuous digging or hoeing, and vigorous aerobic dancing. So there are things you can do to meet these criteria, And again, even if you just do it on the weekend, it's still better than nothing, and you get most of the benefit according to this most recent study. So one of my favorite stories from when I first moved to DC and started working at the hospital there was an exercise activity that we put on for a group of 7th grade girls who were from a somewhat disadvantaged community. And we brought them to the atrium in our hospital, and we actually did this in partnership with a group that knew how to do step shows or put on step shows. So we had maybe it was 50 or so 7th grade girls, me and a couple other of my colleagues who were involved in the weight management programs, and then the instructors. And we were booming in the auditorium, putting on a step show. It was super fun. But most importantly, it offered an opportunity for this group of girls who may not have thought of stepping as an exercise option. And while we did this as a group, and it certainly was more fun as a group and in an auditorium with loud music blaring, you could do it at home with your phone, and I bet lots of people are doing that and filming it and then posting it to Instagram or TikTok. So one day of exercise wasn't going to change these girls' lives necessarily, but the point was just to get them out there, breaking a sweat, having fun, and realizing that exercise is important. You might think exercise and food policy and all these things are political because we've had Let's Move and now we have MAHA, but it really isn't. This is just a general health issue. We should all be doing some basic things that can improve our metabolic health, whether we have obesity or whether we're normal weight. And it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to be something that's a chore. You should enjoy it. So the message is that diet and exercise is pretty much good for all of us. We should all work on these lifestyle measures. If you have obesity, it will still help you because it'll make your metabolic health better. Again, it won't treat your obesity because your obesity is a disease and not a lifestyle choice. But these adjuncts can help with whatever treatment you choose and are really important if you want to maintain whatever benefit you've gotten from the obesity treatment. So if you want to learn more about obesity treatment, you can certainly look at this video here. And if you want to learn more about anything else, just subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can look at any of the videos that are there, because the idea is just to spread the word in a way that we all can understand so that we all live happier and healthier lives. So stay tuned, stay engaged, and we'll see you again.